TV show. They were close friends who trusted each other, worked side by side for many years, and even shared personal moments. Edd was the godfather to Mike's child, which shows how deep their bond once was. But in 2017, everything between them collapsed in a dramatic and very public way. It happened at a car festival in Connecticut. Mike was on stage speaking to a crowd when he suddenly said that Edd had done very bad things. Fans were shocked because no one expected such a statement. A little later, Mike wrote a tweet saying Edd had stabbed him in the back. He deleted it quickly, but not fast enough, because many people saw it before it disappeared. That was the moment fans realized something serious had happened between two men who had worked together for more than 13 years. Mike claimed that Edd had changed over time, becoming difficult to work with. Edd, on the other hand, said that Mike had sided with the network instead of supporting him. Fans were confused, and rumors spread everywhere. But the truth behind their falling out was more complicated than what viewers saw. There was more involved than just disagreements about how cars should be fixed on the show. Today, their story is still discussed because people want to understand what really happened to a friendship that once looked unbreakable. To understand Mike better, you have to know where he came from. Mike Brewer was born on August 28, 1964, in Lambeth, South London. This was a time when cars were not just machines that took people from one place to another. They were symbols of personality, pride, and creativity. People used them to show who they were. Mike grew up in a family where cars were a huge part of life. His father, Roger Brewer, was a talented car customizer who worked on vehicles in their small garage behind the house. Mike's mother, Doreen, kept the home running smoothly, supporting Roger's passion and helping raise Mike in a warm, simple environment. Roger was proud of a special car he had built himself. It was a heavily modified Ford Popular that he lovingly called Mr. Popstar. The car was loud, colorful, and well known in their neighborhood. Whenever Roger drove by, people would turn to look. Mike was only 5 years old when he first climbed into the passenger seat. He remembered the smell of gasoline, the sound of the engine, and the excitement his father had when talking about carburetors and horsepower. Most Ford Populars had about 30 horsepower, but Roger had worked on his so much that it produced more than 35. For a little boy, those extra few horses felt like magic. That driveway behind their house became Mike's first classroom. He learned things there that he would never forget. By the time he was 10 years old, Roger had turned the garage into a small workshop where he repaired cars for local people on weekends. Mike became his father's helper. He passed tools, held flashlights, learned how to rewire headlights, and slowly developed the skill to diagnose engine problems just by listening to the sound they made. One weekend, Roger bought a beaten-up Austin A40 for only $15. It looked terrible, but Roger told Mike to imagine what it could be, not what it was. They spent months restoring it together. Mike learned how to free up rusted bolts, fix dents, and use sandpaper to smooth out metal. They visited car boot sales where sellers often asked for $30, but Roger taught Mike the art of negotiation. He showed him how to point out flaws politely and ask for a lower price. These lessons shaped Mike's thinking for the rest of his life. Before he even entered secondary school, Mike already understood how to turn wrecks into profit. At 14, he decided he wanted to try working alone. He had saved $50 from his paper route, putting away small amounts each week. With that money, he bought a rusty beige Mini 800 cubic centimeters from a neighbor. The car had many problems. The handbrake didn't work, and there was rust everywhere, but Mike didn't see a piece of junk. He saw a chance to learn and make money. Over the next few months, he and Roger visited junkyards looking for cheap replacement parts. A new handbrake cable cost only $3, and metal floor panels cost £8. A family friend offered to repaint the car for $25. Mike worked on the car every weekend, getting his hands dirty and figuring out what each part did. He replaced brake shoes, fitted new rubber seals, and practiced bodywork even when it didn't come out perfect. When the Mini was finally ready, he had spent $85 on repairs. He sold it for $250. Earning a profit of $115 at his age felt like earning $1 million. It showed him he had talent and that this could be more than just a hobby. At 16, Mike left school and got an apprenticeship at a used car dealership in South London. The shop sold mostly old British Leyland cars. Mike's job was to cold call sellers using a payphone outside the dealership. He would write down numbers in a notepad and call them one by one. After a few weeks, he found a 1972 Vauxhall Viva HC with nearly 90,000 miles on it. The elderly owner wanted $180, but Mike noticed the worn-out clutch and tires. He negotiated the price down to $150 and convinced his boss to take a chance on it. After spending only $30 on simple repairs, the dealership sold the car for $350 in less than 2 weeks. Mike earned a $20 commission. It was the first time he had made money purely from negotiation and spotting value. By 19, Mike had left the dealership and started his own small weekend car trading operation. Every Monday, he bought damaged cars at auctions. During the week, he repaired them as cheaply as possible, and on Saturdays he sold them for quick profits. He chose cars that looked terrible on the outside but were mechanically strong. He often bought them for $100 or $200 and resold them for $500 or $600. By the time he was 21, he had saved around $5,000, which would be nearly $15,000 in today's money. He kept things simple, stayed under the tax threshold, and used cash for most deals. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Those early years taught him how to judge cars quickly, make profits fast, and keep money moving instead of letting it sit still. As Mike got older, his reputation grew. In the late 1980s, when other people dreamed of fancy showrooms, Mike was out in the streets of London buying and selling used cars with nothing but his charm and sharp instincts. People trusted him because he was honest. If a car had problems, he said so. If a car was good, he explained why. Over time, he opened his own center in southern England, importing cars and building relationships with buyers from all over. He wasn't trained in business schools or corporate programs. Everything he knew came from experience, mistakes, and hard work. By the early 1990s, Mike was expanding even more. He wasn't just flipping cars anymore. He was building a network of contacts, suppliers, and repeat buyers. He knew how to negotiate both ways. He could convince a seller to lower the price and also make the buyer believe they were getting something valuable. He didn't deal in exotic luxury cars. He sold reliable, everyday vehicles that people needed and could afford. His confidence and friendly style caught the attention of people in the TV industry, even though Mike himself never tried to become famous. In 1992, Mike married Michelle, a woman born in 1962 who shared his love for cars. She supported him through every stage of his career and quietly played a big role in his success. They had a daughter named Chloe and kept their personal life very private. Mike rarely posted personal things online, but in 2018, he shared a proud photo of Chloe at her graduation. On their anniversary in 2024, Mike posted a heartfelt message saying, "How did I get so lucky?" 34 years together and 21 happily married. Michelle stood by him from the days he struggled to make ends meet to the years he faced media pressure, criticism, and stress. Mike's entry into television was almost accidental. One day, he happened to pick up the phone at a friend's house. The person on the other end was a producer looking for someone who understood cars and could speak naturally on camera. Mike didn't even realize he was being considered for a show. He talked casually, shared stories, and made the producer laugh. A short time later, he learned he had been cast in a new TV program called Deals on Wheels. The show aired in 1998, and Mike teamed up with Richard Sutton to teach viewers how to spot good used cars and avoid bad purchases. It wasn't a flashy production, but people loved it because it felt real. Mike spoke like an everyday person, not like a salesman. The show made him popular, and his career in television took off from there. A few weeks after Mike appeared on television, the producers of Top Gear noticed him and tried to bring him onto their show. But instead of leaving, Mike managed to negotiate a second job while still keeping his first one. That second show was called Driven, and it put him alongside Jason Barlow and a young James May, long before James became famous on Top Gear. By 2002, Driven had ended, and the BBC was working on a fresh version of Top Gear. Mike's contract ran out at the same time, so he started receiving new offers. One of them came from the Discovery Channel. Back then, Discovery was mostly known for documentaries about climbers, explorers, and wildlife. But the network wanted to create a car show, something different from what they usually aired, and they wanted Mike's help to shape it. Mike worked closely with the producers to turn a basic 5-minute idea into a full series. The idea was simple but strong: buy a car, fix it up, and then sell it for a profit. At first, they planned to call the show Grand Autos. But Mike already had a company named Wheeler Dealer Limited, and everyone agreed that the name had a better ring to it. That name became the title of the show that would later grow into one of the most successful car programs in the world. While Mike's journey into television was taking shape, Edd China was building his own unique path. Edd was born on May 9, 1971, in London, but he spent most of his childhood in Surrey. He studied at King Edward's School in Whitley, where his interest in how things worked really began to grow. There are stories that he took apart a bicycle engine at age 6 or dug through his father's old motorcycle parts from the 1950s, but those stories don't have solid proof. What is true is that Edd showed curiosity early on, always wanting to understand machines, tools, and the way things fit together. By 1989, Edd was a student at London's South Bank University, studying engineering product design. He needed money for an upcoming expedition to Borneo in 1991, but instead of getting a normal part-time job, he decided to build something completely unusual: a motorized sofa. He named it the Casual Lofa. It was exactly what the name suggested: a leopard print living room sofa powered by a 1.3-liter mini engine. Edd used a pizza tray as the steering wheel, flower pots as indicators, and placed the speedometer inside a clock on a small table. The best part was that he made it street legal, which meant he could actually drive it on real roads. He started showing the sofa at university events and local gatherings. People were amazed, and the strange creation helped Edd raise the money he needed. What began as a fun student idea slowly became the invention that set his entire future in motion. In March 1998, the sofa earned Edd his first Guinness World Record. It reached 87 miles per hour and officially became the fastest piece of furniture in the world. Edd was only 27 at the time and soon began showcasing the sofa at big events like Top Gear Live at Silverstone. Jeremy Clarkson even raced it around the Thruxton circuit for one of his DVDs, filmed in a comedic, cartoon-like style. But the Casual Lofa wasn't Edd's only invention. He also built a drivable toilet and a bed on wheels. Both of these unusual vehicles appeared on TV programs like The Big Breakfast. Nearly 10 years after he built his first sofa, Edd went back to improve it. In 2007, he created a new version for Sofa.com and broke his own record by reaching 92 miles per hour. By the time Edd graduated in 1994, he had already created a name for himself. That same year, he got his first real job in television as a special effects technician on the comedy series Father Ted. His creativity and mechanical skill made him stand out behind the scenes. As his unusual inventions got more and more attention, he started building a business around them. In March 1999, he founded Comfy Banana Limited, a company that specialized in turning strange, funny, and imaginative vehicle ideas into working machines. Edd's creations began appearing on ITV's Pulling Power in 2001 and then again on the show This Morning in 2006. Little by little, he was becoming a familiar face on British television, not just a technician behind the curtain. By the early 2000s, Edd was appearing on almost every major British car show. He appeared on the rebooted Top Gear in 2002, where he took a $200 Rover and added James Bond-style gadgets to it, including an actual ejection seat that only cost him another $100 to build. He also became a regular contributor to Fifth Gear, where he blended entertainment with solid mechanical knowledge. Edd even stepped away from the automotive world for a moment to appear on Ready Steady Cook in 2005 for a Children in Need special, proving he could adapt to any kind of television setting. In 2003, Mike Brewer was already well known in British car television thanks to his success on shows like Deals on Wheels. That was the year Discovery Channel brought him on for a new experiment, a project that would become Wheeler Dealers, the show that eventually paired him with Edd China and changed both of their lives forever. Mike was 38 when Wheeler Dealers began, and Edd was 32, an engineer with real hands-on skill and a calm screen presence that balanced Mike's energy. On paper, they didn't seem like an obvious match, but the moment the cameras rolled, everything clicked. Their chemistry wasn't scripted. It was natural. Mike was the negotiator, the one hunting for cars and making deals, and Edd was the calm problem solver who brought those cars back to life. Mike would go out, find a vehicle, bargain hard, and close the deal with his trademark handshake. Then the car would arrive in Edd's workshop, and that's where the magic happened. Edd would dismantle it, repair every problem step by step, and explain it in simple language so even people who knew nothing about cars could follow along. There was no fake drama, no shortcuts, and no tricks. Everything was real. They never included labor charges in the final costs, only the actual price of parts and outside services like paintwork. That honesty built trust with viewers. The first season aired on October 7, 2003, and had just 12 episodes. The budget was tight, only $1,000 for each car. One of the early projects, a 1986 Ford Capri Laser, actually lost money. They spent $945 fixing it, but it sold for only $700, leaving a $245 loss. It received new tires, new fog lights, exhaust work, and decals, but no profit. Still, the loss didn't hurt the show. Viewers appreciated seeing the real process, the real challenges, and the fact that sometimes things don't work out perfectly. That honesty kept them watching, and soon the show grew. Budgets increased, episodes became longer, and the format evolved. Originally each car took 2 30-minute episodes. After season 6, they switched to a full 1-hour episode for each restoration. That extra time allowed the show to slow down and go deeper. Mike could talk about the history and culture behind each car, while Edd could explain every repair, every bolt, and every gasket in detail. The show always revealed the real profit or loss, which kept the audience loyal. People didn't just enjoy the show, they believed in it. By 2011, Wheeler Dealers reached a new level when they crossed over into America. Season 8 took them across states like California and Illinois, searching for rust-free classics and powerful muscle cars. By season 12, they had a full-time workshop set up in Huntington Beach. First they worked in a place on Redondo Circle, and later they moved to a better facility on Research Drive. No more shipping cars to the UK. Everything, from buying to fixing to selling, happened in the US, which made the whole operation smoother and more profitable. But behind the scenes, it was exhausting. They filmed 6 days a week, often up to 17 hours a day. The workshop scenes that looked so clean and simple on TV were actually the hardest to film. Nothing could be staged or faked. Edd insisted that every repair shown on camera had to be genuinely done, step by step. That meant long days, delays waiting for parts, and hours of real mechanical work. While other car shows used shortcuts or added fake drama, Wheeler Dealers stayed true to real repairs, but the pressure kept growing. As the years passed, tension quietly built up. Edd wanted longer and more detailed technical segments, because he believed the repairs were the heart of the show. But the producers wanted faster pacing and more focus on Mike's buying and selling. Edd pushed back because he didn't want the technical honesty to disappear. Mike, however, believed the show needed to adapt to stay fresh. He didn't think shorter segments meant disrespecting the work, he saw it as a necessary evolution. Everything changed when the Velocity Network took over in 2016. They cut the episodes down to 43 minutes, which reduced workshop time from around 20 minutes to about 15. To Edd, that wasn't just editing, it erased too much of the real mechanical process. He felt that if repairs were shown too quickly, viewers might misunderstand the steps and accidentally hurt themselves trying to copy what they saw. He didn't want to be part of a show that cut corners or compromised safety, so he made the difficult decision to leave. Edd explained his side honestly to the viewers. He said he wouldn't support a format that rushed or watered down the work. Mike saw the situation differently. He believed Edd was resisting change and didn't want to adjust to the demands of modern television. To Mike, it wasn't about faking anything, it was about keeping the show entertaining and moving forward. But both men agreed on one painful truth: they were no longer on the same page. Their disagreement wasn't just professional. It became personal. They weren't just co-hosts, they had been close friends. Edd was even the godfather to one of Mike's children. That bond made their growing distance even harder. When Edd left in 2017, the silence between them was sharp and noticeable. Edd later admitted that Mike wasn't his favorite person at the time. Mike hinted that Edd had become hard to work with. They didn't publicly attack each other, but they stopped pretending everything was fine. Edd stayed firm in his beliefs. He wasn't in the industry for celebrity status or fame. He cared about the integrity of the repairs and the honesty of what was shown on screen. He refused to rush a job or hide steps just because a network wanted quicker edits. He always thought about the viewers at home who might try to repeat what they saw. Mike had his own perspective. He believed the show had to grow and adjust to survive, and he felt Edd was resisting the reality of modern television. Mike didn't deny Edd's talent, but he felt the behind-the-scenes workload was becoming harder to manage with Edd's high standards. Whatever the full truth is, their split didn't happen because of one episode or one argument. It built up over years of pressure, changes, long hours, and two strong personalities who eventually drifted apart after working side by side for more than a decade. It wasn't just one moment or one argument that caused the break. It was years of tension, edits, shrinking budgets, and two people slowly growing in different creative directions. On March 21, 2017, Edd China sat quietly in his workshop, turned on a camera, and recorded a calm explanation for fans. He wasn't angry. He wasn't dramatic. He simply told everyone why he was leaving Wheeler Dealers after 13 long years. The issue began when the American network Velocity took control of the show. They said Wheeler Dealers had become too difficult and too expensive to make in its original style. What they wanted was faster cuts, simpler repairs, and cheaper production. But the moment they said they needed to shorten the workshop segments, things began to crumble. Those segments were the heart of the show for Edd. They were where he showed real mechanical work, the proper tools, and every important step. Velocity told him to skip that part. He refused. He believed that cutting corners on camera would encourage viewers to do the same at home, and that could lead to injuries. Instead of lowering his standards, he walked away. He didn't list every disagreement, but it was clear there had been many. Edd's way of working, using exact measurements, high-quality tools, and showing the full repair process, was too slow and too expensive for television executives. The production team didn't want long, detailed repairs. They didn't want viewers to watch the hard, messy work. They wanted quick edits that made it look like the car fixed itself. Edd knew people learned from watching him. He didn't want anyone trying to repeat a repair they saw half explained on TV and getting hurt. That was a line he would not cross. The network also didn't like how long filming took. A real suspension repair could take days, which meant long hours for the crew and higher costs. Velocity wanted outside shops to repair the cars off camera. The presenters would then film a few final steps to make it look like they did everything themselves. It was cheaper and easier, but not honest. Edd's workshop was filled with tools he trusted, custom rigs, alignment equipment, gadgets he built with his own hands. All of it mattered, yet the network wanted to get rid of most of it. They didn't care about the process, only the result. When Edd posted his video online, fans erupted. They weren't angry with him. They were angry with the show. But some of that anger landed on the wrong person. Mike Brewer, Edd's co-host, took the full hit. People assumed he pushed Edd out. Within hours, his social media was flooded with hateful messages. It got so bad that his wife and daughter began receiving threats. Real threats. Edd had to post another message begging people to stop, saying clearly that none of this was Mike's fault. But the damage had already spread. Edd had walked away from a huge salary, international fame, and a stable television career. Later he admitted that the years following his departure were hard. The routine he had lived with for more than a decade was suddenly gone. The security was gone. He fell into depression for a while. But he didn't stay down. He began building something new. He started a YouTube series called Workshop Diaries, where he repaired vehicles with full detail again, exactly how he wanted. No executives, no time limits, no shortcuts, no forced edits. He filmed in his own garage and worked at his own pace. But as Edd rebuilt, the situation around Mike became even more complicated. Months after Edd's exit, something surprising happened. At a car festival in Connecticut, Mike Brewer made comments that shocked the crowd. He said that Edd had done very bad things, and Discovery had given him a choice to leave. Mike implied that Edd didn't walk away for creative reasons but because of behavior issues. The audience was stunned. None of this matched what fans heard from Edd earlier that year. Mike didn't stop there. He shared a story from one of their last episodes about a 1968 Corvette. According to him, when he asked Edd to remove the engine, Edd snapped and said he didn't need to because he was a TV star now. Mike said that was the moment he realized Edd had changed, that he no longer wanted to do the hard work. He claimed that in the early years both of them worked 17-hour days, but by the end it took hours to convince Edd to do basic tasks. Mike compared him with Ant Anstead, the new co-host, calling Ant focused, loyal, and genuinely committed to the work. Then came the tweet. A few weeks after Edd left, Mike reacted emotionally online. He tweeted that Edd had abandoned the show and stabbed him in the back. He deleted it quickly, but screenshots were already spreading everywhere. He tried to explain it later, saying he felt deeply hurt that Edd had spoken publicly before talking to him in private. After 13 years of working together, Mike felt betrayed. The backlash didn't stay online. People confronted Mike in public. Fans insulted him at restaurants, at car shows, and even outside his home. His wife and daughter were targeted by strangers. His daughter faced bullying at school. Mike said the stress pushed him into drinking more. People even showed up at his house, shouting things at his family. He said that everything started because of Edd's initial video. The anger from fans didn't just affect Mike. It affected his employees, his business, and his charity work. Edd eventually had to speak again, asking fans to stop attacking Mike. But by then the situation had gone too far. In interviews later, Mike continued to talk about the working relationship. He said Edd became difficult and distant. He said Ant Anstead showed him more support during hard times. He described a moment when his mother was seriously ill, and Ant told him to leave work and go home to be with her, even if it meant ending their TV partnership. Mike said he never got that kind of support from Edd. Their bond, which he once called a TV husband relationship, was gone. In 2018, he finally stated openly that he and Edd would never work together again. Meanwhile, Edd quietly rebuilt his career. When he launched Workshop Diaries in April 2021, it didn't feel like he was returning to the screen. It felt like he had finally reached the place he had always wanted to be. He was free. Free to work at his own pace, free to show every detail, free to follow his passions. It didn't matter if a repair took a week or a month. He filmed every step. Whether he was restoring a classic Mini, converting an ice cream truck into an electric vehicle, or working on a strange amphibious machine, he let viewers see the full process. No rushing, no cutting corners. Fans loved it. Old viewers from Wheeler Dealers followed him, and new audiences discovered him online. He even teased collaborations with people like Jay Leno and the Car Throttle team, mixing old-school car culture with modern internet style. While Edd found a new rhythm, Wheeler Dealers continued moving forward. After Edd left, Ant Anstead stepped in, then later Mark Elvis Priestley took over. The show switched between the UK and California and kept producing new seasons. By the end of 2023, It had aired 269 episodes across 18 seasons. Mike remained the one constant. The formula stayed the same: buy a car, fix it, sell it. They added spin-offs like Trading Up, Dream Car, and even launched a world tour in 2024. What never returned was the original partnership that made the show famous. Mike repeatedly said there was no feud and that everything was fine, but then he made comments at events like the one at the Klingberg Festival, where he suggested Edd had done bad things behind the scenes. Those remarks didn't match his calm claims about peace. Edd stayed consistent, saying he left purely for creative reasons, not drama. Still, the fact that they never met publicly again, not even at big events like the NEC Classic Motor Show, kept fans guessing. Online forums didn't hold back. People speculated about lawsuits, unpaid bonuses, and arguments with the Discovery Channel. None of it was confirmed, but fans kept connecting the dots. Mike's decision to sell parts of his personal car collection didn't help calm those rumors. In 2021, he auctioned off 5 vehicles at the NEC show alone. Then there was the story of the stolen Ford Fiesta in 2023, a car the Wheeler Dealers team had restored that later disappeared. Mike offered a $5,000 reward but never recovered it. Even though the show continued, the shadow of the split always followed it. Fans still debated what really happened, whose side they believed, and whether the partnership could ever be repaired. But one thing became clear: both men continued forward, just on different paths. Edd stayed true to his principles, valuing honesty and full transparency in the work he loved. Mike kept the show alive, pushing through public pressure and personal challenges. And although their journey together ended in conflict, the years they built Wheeler Dealers side by side shaped both of their careers forever.